the other teachers. She's supposed to know how to manage a classroom, isn't she? It doesn't matter. If she prioritizes making friends, that would make Melanie's life a lot easier. So she thinks. One night, she notices a woman in an apartment across from her. A few days later, she sees that same woman outside a boutique. Her name is Tina, and she's the owner. This opportunity couldn't have come at a better time. Melanie decides to introduce herself after a failed attempt to connect with two other women. She just has to make this work. More days pass, and she just so happens to see Tina on the street again. Melanie tells her they should get together for coffee, which they do, and things go well. But poor needy Melanie will ruin this friendship before it has the chance to develop. When I tell you I haven't seen a character this awkward in years, I'm not kidding. Hunger was bad, but this is far worse. It's a shame too, 'cause her heart's in the right place, but she blunders through 98% of social interactions. Early on, I thought this was gonna be like a cross between The Office and Happiness. In an early scene, she goes shopping for plant pots, and a snarky sales associate helps her. His outfit and the pots are brightly colored, so I thought the movie was gonna have a similar color palette as Happiness, but the colors in this are as dull as Melanie's life. Even her hair is brittle and washed out. I doubt that was a coincidence. Melanie's hypocrisy also made me think of Happiness. She creepily pursues a friendship with the more stylish and confident Tina, but when a male coworker does it to her, she finds it annoying. In Happiness, one of the characters is a pervert who obsesses over a beautiful woman, but rejects the advances of a less appealing one. He obsessively lusts over the beautiful one, completely ignoring that on top of being socially repellent, they're not physically on the same level. Most of us would like to believe it's what's inside that counts, but that's not always the case. Most people don't want to admit they're superficial, but to a certain extent, we all are. I'll admit I can be, but I'll tell you why. Because I'm human. I like to look at beautiful things and people. You probably do too. You know why else I know looks matter? Because I didn't always look like this, and I was bullied for my weight and features. Is it superficial to say that I wouldn't go back to looking the way I did? Sure. Is it still true though? Abso-fucking-lutely yes. And it's not necessarily because I'm vain. The difference between how I was treated back then and now is impossible to ignore. Also, I'm genuinely fucking traumatized by things people have done and said to me just because of the way I looked. Some of the facial expressions people made when Melanie misspoke reminded me of the facial expressions people made when I'd just be minding my own business, not even saying anything offensive, so I took a nice fun trip down memory lane with this one. The bullying I went through gave me a stubborn case of ugly duckling syndrome. In fact, I have the opposite problem of Melanie. Sometimes I assume people don't want to be around me even when I have zero evidence. wasn't as socially offensive as her. Yes, he could be intrusive. Yes, he was romantically interested. But she could have respectfully set boundaries. Except she doesn't, because she's ineffectual at almost everything. Remember, she can't even keep her kids under control. Toward the end of the movie, when she's on the verge of a mental breakdown, he can tell she's unwell and he's genuinely concerned, but he doesn't intrude the way she would have if it had been the other way around. If you're a woman, you probably know how annoying it is when a man goes out of his way to act concerned for you, but deep down you know it's because he wants something. That wasn't the case here. Just like The Office, this was shot on handheld digital video, so it felt like a documentary, but a major difference is how tragically unfunny Melanie's story is. Unlike Michael Scott, she has low self-esteem, so she doesn't cope well with her repeated failures. Michael breezes along life with his confidence unscathed, despite constantly shooting himself in the foot every single day. He also has no problem getting his way. By the way, I want to give a huge shout out to teachers, especially in this day when kids are essentially illiterate and more disrespectful than ever. You guys have it hard. It was upsetting to see Melanie decline. She starts off as a spirited, upbeat woman, but she didn't have the tools to cope with life's hurdles, so she became defeated and weakened, completely consumed by pain. I can't say I've met someone this socially unskilled, but I know people who've entered professions thinking they were gonna make a difference, and they end up disillusioned with their careers, and their personal struggles compound their dissatisfaction, and then it just becomes a miserable cycle of one negatively affecting the other. Melanie also made me think about all the societal issues we face today. Very few people place importance on community, so I thought about how many people must feel as lonely as Melanie, even if they're not to blame, and it just put me in a shittier mood. I've heard that Germans and Austrians can be cold, and it's difficult to make new friendships over there. Maybe that was implied in this movie. I will repeat myself every time I mention stalking. You should never make the exception for people like this because you don't know what's going through their minds. This is a movie. You're privy to the characters' inner thoughts, but that's impossible in real life. You don't know if someone has harmful intentions. Do yourself and these people a favor by establishing boundaries. If they're truly capable of empathy and self-reflection, they'll eventually change after enough rejection. Besides, we all get rejected. Don't be a disgusting freak and be weird about it. Anyway, for a student film, this was really good. I think Maren is an impressive director, and it's clear she's a very emotionally intelligent and observant person. This was written really well. The flow was nice, and that ending was perfect. When I saw how it gave meaning to the title, I was very pleased. It really took me by surprise, and I'm sure it was supposed to be ambiguous, but I took it at face value, so it ruined my day. But I'm the goof who decided to watch this while I had my period and had engaged in harmful behaviors, so I love when movies prove they don't need a all go